Well, first of all, I want to say that, Luvvie, I knew that somewhere in your season there needed to be some kind of discussion about faith and God and business. And we landed on like, I'll just interview you about it. Like, I got questions for you. But as this interview was going, I thought, oh, okay, this is her episode about God and faith and business. This is it. So like,
Yeah.
and Fawn, I just want you to know, and you know this because you embody this, but the word that comes to mind for you is blessed. And I feel like blessed is such an overused word, but you exude a blessed life. And it is birthed from obedience to the creator of all things. And I feel like the reason why you don't need a lot of strategy and you don't need a lot of, you ended up on Jack Daniel's lot, like the reason why all of these pieces of the puzzle are just phenomenal and otherworldly and how and what and all these moments of like, how does that, what, you're not stressed, all of these like unexplainable blessings is because that's why God has elevated you to this
Yeah.
position,
Yeah.
right? To say, okay,
Yeah.
this is what it looks like to live a life that gives me glory. And the
Mm.
amazing thing about it is that like you've given God so much glory in this interview. What people forget is like when we give God our lives and we surrender and we glorify him, in return, this is what he does for us.
Yeah.
We can end up dying tomorrow. Like, I don't need an obit. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can be like, I don't have business advice. In fact, like, this is actually what I want to talk about. So it's like, we have the most purest example I
Yeah.
think I have ever seen
Yeah.
of a blessed woman. And I just did not know we were going there. I had no idea where we were. But God is speaking to me. And I know that a lot of women, because you even caught it out when she asked, like, what are we doing wrong? And you're like, hey, we're just, a lot of us aren't obedient, or we're just not willing to surrender all. Like, you even go there to say it's nothing about tactics and strategy and marketing. It's like, have you figured out what God has called you to do and are you doing it?
Yeah.
That's what most of us are getting. We're off track.
Yeah.
So even in that, I believe that lives will be changed. Really, it's like spirits will be awakened. And
Mm.
some of us are going to go back to God and be like, okay, God, I can trust you a little bit more. I hate that it took having to hear what a blessed life looks like in a podcast to get me to this point, but it did. So now you already know, so I can say that. So now I'm here, God, and it's like I'm ready to surrender all.
Well, even Luvvie, when she was at our house, and it's our chaplain and our chaplain's wife, God, Netta, she knows the word better than probably every pastor out there combined. Like, she just stays in it, seeped in it, studies it. And she asked the question, what is purpose? What does purpose mean to you? And I think for a lot of people, they'd have to really sit there and they'd have some real philosophical answer. And you know, it'll take a minute. Let me think about it and all the rest of that. The moment she asked the question, the answer dropped in my spirit immediately. To me, it's obedience. My life of purpose is not doing, it's being. My striving is to be obedient. And
Mhm.
so a lot of the things that we see, like this acquisition that we're working on right now, this is literally a text message that came into me that people would be working for decades to be able to acquire a company like this. And it literally came in as a text message saying,
Mhm.
would you consider this acquisition? And
Yeah.
here's the thing. This is where it's obedience and faith and understanding who you are. I got on that phone call, and that phone call wasn't, oh my God, this is amazing, even though it is. That didn't matter. The phone call was, these are my non-negotiables to even have a conversation about acquiring. That's not about control. That literally is about me knowing what my purpose is and me understanding that that text message was not because that person is in charge. Heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord. He turns it whichever way he wants. So when I get a message like that from a person who in this industry would be considered a king, who works for one of the biggest kings in this industry, when I get that message, my thought process isn't in okay, strategically, how do I have this conversation? And strategically, how should I approach this? No, no. Let's hop on a call and let me tell you what my non-negotiables are. Because you sent that text message not because you were the person with the power. You sent that text message because this is a part of God's plan. You just happen to be the person that is located in the position that he wants you to be in to send that text message to me. I am not looking at you as having the power. You don't have the power. The best way to describe it, and Luvvie, I think I mentioned this to you. I think we had this conversation. Yes, we did at Accelerator when we were loitering in the hallways. The best way to look at this, and it's one of my favorite things, and it's things that people miss. When people are going through like challenges in life, they'll point to Job. If they feel as though they didn't cause it, point to Job and they'll look at all the challenges that Job had. And then they'll look at it and say, on the other side of it, I'll be blessed times, I'll get a double blessing and all the rest of these things. And, it's all churchy stuff, right? But when I look at that, there's a lot of principles that come out of when I read the book of Job. It's not even funny, like certain people you just shouldn't listen to, but that's a whole other thing. But the thing that I gathered the most out of it is the conversation between God and Satan. So we will spend a whole lot of time focused on the enemy, focused on all these things that come at us. But if we look at the way that God has a conversation with who is supposed to be his main adversary, there's no power on that other side. How is somebody your main adversary when they're coming to you like a servant? If you look at the conversation is one-sided in terms of power. The enemy, his greatest adversary, still needs his permission to touch his servant. So the reason why I am so adamant about being obedient and being true to who I am are two reasons. The first is I don't want to get out of alignment because I want to make sure if somebody wants to touch me, they got to go through him. So I don't have a fear of anybody in my industry. I don't have a fear of a banker not giving me what I need. I don't have a fear because my focus is alignment. So they got to go through him to touch me. So if you see something happen to me, just know it wasn't that person. They had to get permission. So that's the first thing. The second reason that I'm so focused on alignment is because when you look at the Bible and it says, everybody focuses on the fact that Satan, that the enemy is roaming the world looking for who he can devour, who he can destroy. But they miss the part that says God is roaming the world looking for who he can bless. Our blessings are attached to who we are, meaning who he created us to be. So when we are out of alignment with who it is he created us to be, then I just imagine him like tossing down blessings and anointings and it not hitting me because I'm not where I'm supposed to be and I'm not who I'm supposed to be. So the reason why you can't pay me to go along with culture and to not be exactly who God created me to be is that I'm chasing these blessings that require me to be in alignment. So you can't convince me of your point if it is a counterpoint to what God has told me, because now you represent culture and everything that Christ did when he was on earth, every single thing he did was counterculture. So if you're falling in line with culture, you're out of line with Christ, period.
Okay, obedience. You say this word obedience a lot. And I think for a lot of people, it brings up triggers to church and rules and religion. But I would love to hear what you mean by how it's all going back to obedience. What does that mean?
So when you take the time to read the Bible for yourself, not based on what the pastor has said or what religion has said, when you read it for yourself, there is freedom, not bondage. And so I think because most of us haven't taken the time to read it and study it ourselves, we see rules and religion, and we see that as thinking being obedient. But that's not how I look at it. I look at it as obedience for my life. So in my quiet time with God every day, which is not a block set of time in the morning or at night, obedience is really simple. Obedience doesn't come from another person. Obedience is coming straight in your relationship with God. So throughout the day, I am having conversations with God on everything. So it's not set to a block set of times. It is a conversation that is fluid throughout the day, just like if he were here in this space with me. And it's not like a conversation of, can you help me with this? Or can you lead me through this? Can you guide me with that? A lot of the stuff we pray about, we already have. And so I really just limit it. It really just is about conversation and relationship. And so obedience to me is what he is telling me he has called me to do directly and specifically. It has nothing to do with what any pastor says, with what any religious leader says. I could probably go toe to toe with most religious leaders about things that they get wrong in the Bible. And I'd be able to go toe to toe with them simply by opening the Bible. For me, obedience has nothing to do with religion at all. And it has nothing to do with theologians or pastors or anything like that. It's my relationship, my direct relationship with God. But that takes time to cultivate, to hear his voice. You can't just be like a part of culture all the time and then try to check into his voice. It doesn't work that way. Me being in alignment with him means that I'm listening for his voice all the time. And here's the thing that's really cool about that is he tells us to prove him. So if I hear something and I think it's from him, but I'm not sure, I have him prove it. There's nothing bad about that. I want to make sure that I'm real clear on his voice versus other voices that I might hear. So all the time, I'm like, if you want this, I need you to do this in order for me to know for sure. And he has no issues with that at all. He tells us in his word, prove him. We just don't take him at his word is the problem.
You gave me that prayer point the other week, and it actually was able to make my decision once I said that prayer. And I literally was like, oh my gosh, it actually, I was like, make it clear to me, because I was not trusting my decision. And I was like, help me choose. And God was like, I'm going to send you about 7 different signs. And in case you're wondering, and Kai actually confirmed one of those signs, by the way.
I love it.
It was the most wildest thing. It was the wildest thing. So yes, I'm actually practicing that.
So the prayer that Luvvie is talking about is a prayer that I started praying on the other side of that hospital bed, which was, Lord, if this is for me, if something is for me, open the door in a manner which no man can close, including myself. Because we will talk ourselves out of blessings all the time. If they seem like they're too tough or too challenging, we'll talk ourselves out of it. And so my prayer is open it in a manner in which no one can close that door, including me. On the other side, if it is not your will, close the door in a manner in which no man can open, including myself. So how that works in real life is when I met my husband, who is the most amazing human being ever, we were set up, we're on a phone call, first call we've ever had. It lasted for 3 hours. My husband is amazing. It lasted for 3 hours. Best conversation I've ever had with anybody in my whole entire life. And he will tell you the last thing I said to him as we were getting off that call, I said, I know we had a great conversation and you think that this is going to go somewhere and you think that, I'm different and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I said, however, if you wake up tomorrow morning and you have no desire to call me, go with that emotion. I will not take it personal. And I won't take it personal because I don't have time to waste. And I only want to be in communion and communication with the person who is my husband, because I'm perfectly content by myself. So that means that if you wake up in the morning and you have no desire to call me after having such an incredible conversation, that's God's will, not yours. Go with that. And so he tells people it was the best Jedi mind trick of all time. But really, all it was me freeing him, right? To say, listen, don't feel bad about it. I won't feel bad if you don't call me because it's an answer to my prayer. Close the door if this isn't the person for me. And so every other person who I'd ever had a great conversation with that didn't want to call me the next morning, I wasn't trying to track them down. That's God's will. So that's how it looks in a practical sense. And I do that with every aspect of my life, and I have for the last 27 years. Even with this acquisition that is like crazy, if it goes through, people on the other side of this will see it and go, oh, that's what she was talking about. If the acquisition goes through, we know it's God's will because strategy is not what did it. It's that literally I said, Lord, if this is your will, open the door in a manner in which no man can close it, including myself. That means that even the folks who we would be acquiring it from, they can't even close it.
This is a master class. This is I don't even have the word. I ain't even got the words. I'm just over here just reveling in what is obviously God speaking to hopefully millions of people who hear this. We all needed to hear this. This was I don't even have words.
I'm gonna get in trouble if I don't get on these next calls. So we got any more questions about your part 3?